I am beating every N64 game, and I mean all of them. The twist is, the next game I play is randomly selected, so I have no clue what's coming next. This is the journey to beating every N64 game. Game number 100. Ooh, that feels cool to say. Game number 100, Sin and Punishment. Released exclusively in Japan in 2000, this game was developed by Treasure and published by Nintendo. Now, I know what many of you are thinking. Oh god, not another one of those Japanese games? Come on, man. But this one's different. Not only is this, in my opinion, the best Japanese exclusive game on the console, but I think it's one of the best games on the console, period. If you're familiar with the studio Treasure, then you know what I'm talking about. They only put out good games. It's a real shame the rest of the world missed out on this title, but it was eventually released on both the Wii and the Wii U virtual consoles for everyone to enjoy. And as of the making of this video, you can find it on the Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack. Or of course, you can always play it on the original N64 like I do. Whatever you choose, you definitely benefit from checking it out. Let's get into it. The game has a single player story mode, so that's what I'll be doing to beat this game. When you first turn it on, there's a rather lengthy cutscene giving you some intro to the story. Someone is calling for Achi to help them, but then they get lit up by a bunch of guards or something. RIP. The guards mention how these are the rebels, but their leaders are still out there. Then there's like this entity talking from somewhere to someone named Kachua. And then it shows some other people named Achi, Iron, and Saki. I guess these are the main characters, and we want revenge for all those people who were just killed. And then it cuts to the title screen. For the gameplay, it's a 3D rail shooter. The player auto-runs through the level, and you can strafe left and right, as well as jump. You also have a machine gun that can be used to kill all the bad guys. For this first level, most of the enemies provide literally zero threat. It's kind of like target practice. Although there were a couple bosses along the way that provide some slight danger. It looks like we're running through the savannah from The Lion King, except everything is on fire. Guess all the animals are dead. But yeah, this first level's incredibly easy. It'd be hard to die here. Usually between missions, it shows some kind of cutscene to develop the story. This first one shows our character, whose name's Saki, asleep. Perhaps this first mission was just a dream. Iron throws our weapon to us and says, "We've got work to do." It immediately jumps to the next level after the cutscene ends. Now we're fighting other people rather than a bunch of robots. I think they're like a ruling military organization or something like that. I took damage for the first time in this mission too. There was a line of fire on the ground and I needed to jump over it. Well, I didn't realize I had to at the time. I really like there being light platforming aspects mixed into the game. The bosses in this mission were quite a step up in difficulty too. I ran into a soldier that could strafe along the screen just like me and do a jump slash attack as well as send a barrage of bullets towards me. It was really hard to avoid them all. Once that guy's dead though, an even crazier aircraft shows up with a giant electrical beam as well as rapid machine guns and missiles. I think this boss is where I first started to realize how cool the game design was. It just flows so smoothly, and it's intuitive as to what you need to do with zero explanation. Now after this mission, our crew says they're running into Shinjuku Station. The cutscenes actually have voice acting, and it's extremely high quality for the N64.
Maybe. They're probably more worried about the rockets.
Not necessarily the voice actors themselves, I just mean like the quality of the audio files. It doesn't sound muffled at all, although I will admit the voice actors, they're just not the greatest. And the voice acting is in English despite this being a Japanese exclusive title. So now we're taking an elevator up to the station. There's more of those bad guys outside ready to stop us. Some of the enemies here jumped down and continued going till they were behind me. There was no way to shoot them back there, so I just had to dodge. I ran into a mini-boss along the way, which was just some guy with a giant whip. He rapidly jumps around the screen and it's hard to hit him. One thing I haven't mentioned is the timer. Not only do you have a health meter, but there's also a timer for each mission. It gets refreshed when you kill certain things. When it reaches 0, your health begins counting down, which is what happened to me here. I had my first death from this boss. It was near impossible to kill the boss with what I was doing, so I had to use the final mechanic of this game, and the thing that I think makes it incredibly fun, and that is meleeing. The gun Saki uses is also a blade, and it can be used to attack enemies as well as deflect certain projectiles. The melee attack does much higher damage than the gun, and it creates a lot of strategy with which things to deflect and when. You can't use the gun and melee at the same time though. When the elevator got to the top, it showed a cutscene where we were trying to escape with this aircraft. Before Saki can enter, a massive robotic beast thing shows up to stop him. Yes, it's time for a boss fight. The camera view for this boss is way different from anything before. It changes to a side perspective with movement going from left to right. It was tough to get the hang of this fight, and I got annihilated by a beam attack. The continue system in this game is quite generous, with you earning more from getting a big enough hit combo. The boss is named Radon and it has 3000 health, which is way more than anything previously. However, most of the health is taken away by using melee to push it off the ledge. It was a pretty fun fight. Now there's someone talking about how we ruined their research by killing Radon, and then some ominous voice tells them to stop because we're one of the rebels. However, Kachua decides to fight with the power of some blood sacrifice or something? I don't know. Then it immediately jumps to another boss fight. Kachua is invulnerable, and it's basically what I imagine a music video to Let the Bodies Hit the Floor is like. Like, seriously, there's just dozens of soldiers flying through the air. Honestly, it's such a strange fight. Kachua jumps at us but gets hit with a counterattack, falling off the ledge. Now there's a new cutscene where the entire city's being overrun by like a blood tsunami or something. Saki gets overwhelmed by it, but he comes out as this huge robot thing. The ominous voice is shocked that we're transforming, but then Kachua rises from the blood as a big robot too. And you guessed it, we've got to fight Kachua once again. The robot form controls the same as the human form. Essentially, all our moves are just cooler looking versions of the human ones. It's just so awesome seeing two big robots duking it out, especially with how fluid this game controls. I brought the health to 0 and I thought I was done, but nope. Now a giant tidal wave took half my health, and I had to keep fighting. This phase was so fun. Essentially, there's a ton of waves being shot at you in various patterns. It's a real test of reaction speed and dexterity. And then there's a final phase where Kachua is basically in panic mode, spamming lasers at you. Somehow, I knocked out all 3 phases on my first try without dying. Let's talk about the graphics and music of this one. The music's really nice. It kinda reminds me of Toho in a way, but with that N64 feel to it. Pretty much all the songs are great. I think the graphics are solid too. It's just textbook N64 polygon style, and man, the frame rate's so good. It very rarely lags, and with how much is going on during gameplay, that's so nice to see. So now we get a rather lengthy cutscene where Iron and Achi are worried about Saki, but they realize they can't change him back for now. Then Saki just blasts their airship, and I guess they're dead. Wow. The ominous voice comes back, but it zooms out to reveal it's some guy named Brad. He's upset about Saki killing Kachua, so he vows to get revenge. Also, he has a pet thing? It reminds me of a rat and a cat mixed together. Also, Iron and Achi safely escape to some cargo ship. They hear over the intercom that there's a beast ravaging Hokkaido and the military must destroy it. That beast is obviously Saki, so we don't want to let that happen. Iron rips off her jacket, and now that's who we're playing as. She has all the same controls and moves as Saki. There was a rather strange boss in this next level. It's that cat-rat creature, which is apparently named Leda. There's a series of poles aligned in a circle with Leda in the center. You can only move around the perimeter of it, and there's bombs between each one. It was tricky to figure out, but I found if I meleeed the bombs after running around for a while, I could deflect it into Leda. I then reached phase 2, where Leda climbs on top of the poles and jumps along them. Brad is also mad we're trying to kill his pet, so he sends these water blasts pulsating from the center. I ran out of time just when I realized what needed to be done. All I had to do was just double jump up and melee to deal heavy damage. Right after the boss, there were a ton of laser turrets, and I just struggled to dodge these so hard. After getting past that, there was a cool mini-boss with this machine that shot laser beams and then a barrage of energy ball things. This just feels so good to fight. I know I'm praising the game a lot, but god, it's so fun. Once I was past that, Leda led us down a hallway while also dropping bombs behind for us to run into. This led to a very narrow hall with yet another boss, the Anemone Seamer. It's just this gross green blob thing. It uses these suction cup-like things to climb the wall, and I shot those to bring it back down. Meanwhile, it sends bombs in various patterns at us, but they're all avoidable as usual. Once I took care of that, it played a brief cutscene where this giant scorpion-like thing captured Achi and turned her into a green blob as well. It started rolling her away, so I went on the chase. However, I had essentially no HP and no clue what was coming next, and yeah, I got owned. A nice thing about this game is there's checkpoints throughout each mission, such as the one right before this boss. It's real nice to not have to repeat the entire level over again like you have to in many shoot 'em ups. This boss is mostly an intense platforming section, and it gets tough when you have to strafe from side to side repeatedly. I think the hardest part of this fight is just killing the thing without running out of time. After I did kill it though, we get another brief cutscene where Iron mentions how Achi could have just teleported to safety, but she says teleporting's way too dangerous. I didn't even realize that was an option. Then Leda is telling Brad how dangerous we are because we tried to kill it, and Brad says that we've inherited Achi's blood. That's kinda strange, but okay. We burst into Brad's office and it's time to fight. I was ready to throw down, but Brad had 3000 HP. Not only that, but he seemed to dodge every shot I fired by just teleporting around the room. It was a bit confusing because his crosshair was on screen as well, although it was green. It kept getting me confused as to where I was actually aiming. Brad charged up a huge missile, and that was the end of me. Since I couldn't hit Brad, I figured I'd just focus all my shots on Leda. Once I killed it, Brad charged at me with his sword. We got into this crazy anime sword standoff thing, and I slammed him into the glass behind him. After doing that 3 times, that was the end of Brad. Well, that's what I thought. He landed on like a Harrier jet and was taunting us from it. He said he received his powers from Achi's blood, which I thought this person with us was named Achi. Achi then asks us if we want to change Saki back, and obviously we say yes. She goes crazy and rams her arm into the floor. This sends a chunk of the floor into the air, and we're somehow hovering on it. Hey, it's a game, it doesn't have to make sense. Now in this mission, we're flying around on that chunk of metal, taking on a bunch of massive aircraft carriers. I think we're fighting the Navy or something like that. There was also this red airplane thing that looked exactly like the tiny Bronco from Final Fantasy VII. Well, that tiny Bronco ended up coming back later on, and it was the first boss. I don't remember it having laser beams in FF7 though. Again, the thread here was running out of time, which I nearly avoided, but I choked at the last second. This was actually the first boss I died multiple times to, although it was only twice. Dodging those dual laser beams is no joke. There was also this section where the camera got so awkward. Somehow, Iron is standing upside down on the metal chunk, but I guess that makes about as much sense as the chunk flying around in the first place. This part was so disorienting, and I just didn't like it that well. There was yet another boss after that, and it was nuts. There's constantly these drones bringing bombs to drop on the platform that you have to deflect with a melee attack. Then the machine itself sends this blast that covers most of the platform. There was even one attack where it just crashed into the chunk, seemingly taking up the entire thing. I had absolutely no chance here, and it was clear the game was starting to get much harder. I did end up avoiding that slam attack by standing in the center between its legs. Like I said, I'm pretty sure you can beat this entire game without getting hit once. I just barely scraped by this guy on my second try. Next, there was this crazy section with just a constant barrage of red bullets. It feels so satisfying to dodge them all. The mission ends with the easiest boss of all time. Like, literally, you just stand there and don't even move the crosshair. It felt kind of out of place. Oh wait, that's not the end. Brad shows up on his awesome Harrier jet, and now it's time to fight him once again. Brad was not happy with us killing his pet, so he brings out this insane attack. There's literally 5 Harrier jets surrounding me on my little old metal chunk. What am I supposed to do about that, man? Although I did beat him on the next try, mostly by just having full HP to tank attacks. It shows a cutscene with all those Harrier jets sinking down into the ocean, and Achi is sure happy that all those people are dying. She then taunts Brad saying to come with her, but he just disappears into some rift type thing in the sky. You know, I'm not so sure we're the good guys. Now there's like this giant flying battleship-based thing that wants us dead. I think it might be the US military now. I was honestly doing pretty well on it, and I thought I had it in the bag. But then there was this insane part where there's laser beams crossing the path along the whole hallway. The camera's twisting and turning, and it just feels impossible to dodge them all. I died, and that was my last credit. all the way back to the start of the game. To be fair though, it is pretty generous with giving you additional credits. I just died a lot. Man, even once I made it back here, I was still struggling with this part. The checkpoint it gives you is a bit far back, and it's hard to dodge all the laser beams to have health to tank the narrow part. I died a few times here, but I did end up passing it, and it was the end of the mission. Now it shows the big battleship thing launching a bomb. We realize they're aiming directly for Saki, so we want to stop that for sure. It's a timed mission where I had to reduce the missile's HP before it could reach Saki. This is a good time to talk about one issue I had with the game. You're unable to adjust the look sensitivity of the crosshair. I feel like this is a rare thing for me, but the sensitivity was lower than I would like, and I couldn't find any way to speed it up. Usually in games I want to slow it down, but this one was just slow. I couldn't keep up with the missile and Saki blasted it, killing me in the process. I got it on the next try though, and now we're hovering in front of Saki. Achi's going on about how we need to open up Saki's chest and call out to his heart to change him back to a human. But then she tells me to shoot him in the head, and yeah, I think Achi's a bit crazy. We tell her we're not gonna do that, and then somehow we're on a train. There's this little kid there who says we're in Long Island, New York. Oh yeah, Achi can teleport people, that's right. I killed a few enemies, then the kid calls us mommy for some reason. So yeah, you could say the story's gotten pretty weird. This part of the game had me running down the train, killing all the enemies in each car I passed. It feels so cool to just run by them and attack with the sword. There were some real weird enemies here too, like this weird blue thing. It reminded me of a spinning jellyfish. I have no idea what's going on here at this point. Then there was this guy hanging from the ceiling sending these things that looked like rock crabs from RuneScape. It shows a cutscene on the Sony brand TV that we're in the year 2017, 10 years in the future. I don't remember any of this stuff happening. It's Saki destroying the whole city, so I think Achi's trying to show us what's going to happen in the future. Ah, that's why I don't remember it. The little boy tells us his name is Isa Amamaya, and that he can write his name in kanji. Dang, he's smarter than me, cause I sure can't do that. Further in the train now, I made it to my least favorite thing in the entire game. It's a boss that just looks like a pile of rotten popcorn or something like that. You can shoot any of the kernels to deal damage to it, and it has this constant laser covering up the whole area. It's just so tedious, man, and it just regenerates health when you destroy the popcorn. I struggled so much with this boss. I didn't struggle like this literally anywhere else in the game. When I finally did take out all the popcorn, it turned into this purple swinging pendulum that looked like the speed was hacked in. It was going so fast, and I had no chance at hitting it. It turns out you're not supposed to be able to hit it. Actually, you need to hit the source of the web it's hanging from to knock it down. That makes it pretty trivial. I don't know, this boss felt kinda like a puzzle. It just came out of nowhere. It felt out of place. We advance to the next car and Saki's standing there. He's talking about how this is Achi's vision and they're supposed to be married, and Isa is their kid in the future. How would they know that? Then it just jumps back to reality where we're standing on Saki's body, and we blast him in the head. Apparently we also cut a hole in his chest, and Achi's going off about how she engineered this entire war to train Saki to fight her real enemies, which are far, far away. Then she launches me into his chest, and her voice gets all demonic sounding.
But I'm not impatient. Saki must grow more powerful as a human.
Saki stands up and he's freaking out, and then he disappears. Achi says we must have teleported away, so I guess Saki's trying to save us. Or who knows, this story's wild. We wake up on a beach and there's these enemies in the sand. Looks like those things in Jabu Jabu's belly in Ocarina of Time. Saki's here and in human form, but he looks different. I don't know if he's like a robot-human hybrid or what. But now we're playing as Saki again, which doesn't really matter too much since both characters control the same. I had to fight this big orange octopus that buried itself in the sand. It was rough, and I wasn't doing so hot. I thought I was dead for sure, but a sand snake came out of nowhere and ate it. I honestly didn't expect that at all. Then there was this spider that rammed its way into a store and I had to chase it. It perched itself in a nearby window and of course I had to fight. It just kept dodging my bullets and sending a bunch of various spider minions at me. Some just ran at me while others exploded, some shot fire at me, or they sent laser webs my way. It retreated to the back, but now it was just a red blob. Basically just projectiles galore, so I was spamming the sword the entire fight. After killing that boss, we're talking about how we should go to America to try to cure Saki. Well, they hear a noise, so Saki goes to investigate. When he does, Achi sneaks up and kidnaps Iron. Now we're on the hunt to save Iron. This next level was quite unique in that it wasn't an auto run. The camera is viewed from the side, and I could move through the level at my own pace. It's wild how many different variations on the same idea they came up with. There was one annoying part where I had to jump over a bunch of containers or something like that. It felt so hard to just avoid face tanking all the enemies. I did gain an extra credit just before dying though. The game was getting really tough at this point. Luckily, I kept gaining new credits just before dying. I only had 2 left at this point. There were just so many enemies and so many projectiles everywhere. It was pure chaos. I somehow reached the end and Achi was waiting for me with Iron. She said she put her to sleep to test our emotions or something. Saki gets enraged and tries shooting her, but it doesn't do anything. So he throws the gun down and does some big energy blast, sending Achi backwards. Why can't I use that attack in other fights? Achi flies up in the air and looks pretty mad. And then Saki and Iron embrace each other and Saki transforms into the robot form once again. So then the game gives a big lore dump. Essentially, Achi wants to destroy the Earth and take its place. However, she needs someone to rule the Earth who she was hoping would be Saki. But Saki doesn't really want to do that, so you know, we're at a standoff here. Then it just cuts to the boss fight. I think Achi is transformed into some clone of the Earth or something, and we're also out in space. There was an extremely welcome surprise here in that this fight was just projectiles galore. This allowed me to farm up more credits to where it was essentially impossible to game over on this final boss. I didn't realize it the first time, but there are 2 objectives in this fight. I needed to kill Achi's version of Earth, but also protect the real Earth. The real one's health is at the bottom, and if it gets to 0, then you die. Like I did here. Essentially, the fight really tests your aim and reflexes. If you let too many things hit the Earth before you can DPS Achi down, it's over. Achi does all kinds of wild things, like sending snowstorms or molten asteroids. It's an awesome final boss, but it's not all that difficult, I think. I knocked Achi out on the second try, and that was the end of that. The game does one final lore dump in the last cutscene. Saki and Iron are talking about how the world is in shambles, but they'll go around together and stop all the ruffians, and live happily ever after and all that, you know. Then it shows Achi floating in space, talking about how she can't really rely on Brad nor Saki anymore. However, she says there is a third person who inherited her blood, and it shows a new character we haven't seen. Or maybe it's Iron, or maybe Kachua, I don't know. Oh snap, opening up room for a sequel. And there was a sequel that did eventually come out on the Wii. And then the credits play, and that's about it. Game complete. So yeah, there you have it, my journey to beating Sin and Punishment. Man, what a fantastic game. I receive a lot of comments of people saying that I shouldn't have included the Japanese exclusive games in this challenge, but I think really these people just don't like seeing bad games. Without the Japanese games included, I probably would have never heard of this game. It's a shame we never received this outside of Japan. I feel like we really missed out. If you have any interest in the shoot 'em up genre, you'll probably like this game. Even if not, it's a lot of fun and it's not brutally difficult like many others are. The gameplay's awesome and the controls work great. I just wish I could speed up the look sensitivity. The music's good, the graphics were solid, and the frame rate's very stable. I will say, the story was kind of lacking, but the gameplay more than makes up for it. There's not many games I would want to revisit from this challenge, but this is definitely one of them. I am so glad to have found this game. I gave it a 10 out of 10 for enjoyability and a 5 out of 10 for difficulty. That's right, the first 10 out of 10 of the challenge. Highly, highly recommend this one. Hey, thanks for watching the video. Have a sneak peek at the next game. We have 290 games on the list. It's gonna be tough to follow that one up, but let's find out. 3, 2, 1, go. 170. What's that? Oh my god. Alright, we're playing NBA Jam 2000, which The last NBA Jam sucked, so... But yeah, if you made it all the way to the end, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed the video, consider giving it a like. It helps the channel a lot. And if you like this series, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on the next one.